Canelo-Plant does 800,000 pay-per-view buys. Orale raza, gfunkyboxing of HCP. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you know every time I go live or drop a video. So I want to give my thoughts about this. This came out while we were on the roundtable. Make sure if you guys didn't see the roundtable, it was on Ringside Reporter Live, so subscribe to that channel as well. We did talk briefly about this, but I want to give my thoughts about it. Now look, this is obviously a good sign for boxing going forward. We got the pound for pound #1 king, undisputed champion at 168 pounds. Canelo Alvarez goes on pay-per-view for his first time in a really long time. And he's on there with Canelo-Plant, who was a champion, but is not a household name amongst the casuals. And it looks like it's trending towards 800,000 pay-per-view buys, as you can see here, according to Keith Eidick. And that's U.S. buys on all platforms. So this is really good, especially with the UFC being on the same night, having a pay-per-view. And like I said, it shows that this shows that you need a star, a real star, to make pay-per-view work, okay? And it didn't matter where this was to take place. If this was a ESPN pay-per-view, whatever, you know, it would have done these type of numbers. I'm already seeing some people out there, the narrative pushers, saying things like, oh, you see, this is PBC. This is what PBC does and shit like that. Like, look, no, here's what PBC does. They've been putting on bullshit fights that have no business being on pay-per-view in the first place. Now, here's a funny thing. I don't even think this fight belonged on pay-per-view because, again, Plant's not a known guy. It's not a super fight. It's for undisputed. But at the same time, again, this really, for me, I feel like Canelo was going to win easy. And he pretty much did for the most part, you know. So it wasn't a super fight. I believe only super fights should be on pay-per-view. But this is really good, you know, and but let's just look at what PBC has been doing for the last couple of years. Like the only real pay-per-views that they should have made really was just the Fury Wilder fights. That's it. I don't believe Pacquiao Ugas should have been a pay-per-view. Tank Davis's last 2 pay-per-views should not have been on pay-per-view. The Charlo brothers should not have been on pay-per-view. Earl Spence versus Danny Garcia should not have been on pay-per-view. So here's what it looks like when you put a real star on pay-per-view. You do these numbers that are really good, even with a guy who, like I said, is not known amongst the casuals, okay? Now, of course, we don't really know the real numbers, obviously. We never get the actual numbers. There's always going to be reports of numbers either higher or lower or whatever. But, you know, if it's anywhere around this is really good. The Mayweather fans who've been coming out of the darkness, out of the caves, to come and hate on Canelo. Look, your guy was doing these exact same numbers against guys like Chino Maidana and even less numbers against Andre Berto. So you guys can't complain. You guys are all for it then. You know, it was all good then, so it should be all good now. And I'm just tired of hearing these things like 200,000, 250,000 buys. That's great. That's a pay-per-view star. Well, I mean, no, I'm sorry. I disagree with it then. I disagree with it now. This right here shows what a pay-per-view star really is. And if we get him in there with a bigger name, it'll do better numbers for sure. I'm not sure what he's going to do in the future, but this is really cool to see, you know. I have not heard anything about the UFC's numbers, but boxing to me will always be the king of combat sports. And when you put the king of boxing, the face of boxing, the pound for pound #1 guy on pay-per-view, it's going to perform, man. So I'm glad it's doing well. I want what's best for the sport of boxing. Let's see what Canelo does next. I want to see him fight David El Bandera Roja Benavides next. But we'll see what happens, man. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. If you guys are new to the channel, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell This is gfunkyboxing. I'm out.